Hey everyone, it's Chris Crazy House, and finally I get to come back and add some content to my fun channel. And just talking about some stuff that I like for a change. And in this vlog, I'm going to be talking about some summer movies, not just the ones that have passed already, but some of the ones that I'm looking forward to. And this is going to be a two-part vlog because I don't have the same amount of time limit on this channel as I do on my other one. But let's jump right on into it. First, let's talk about some things that I saw this year, or yes, this year, and just how much I enjoyed them. Starting off with the Daredevil series that came on Netflix. Great start to what Marvel is doing with Netflix, doing some content that is more adult and more gritty with their comic book properties. I really enjoyed it. I'm a big Daredevil fan. I'm a big fan of those old Frank Miller comics and some of the ones that were done later on that were drawn by John Romita Jr. So I'm a big Daredevil fan, and I always like that he's just, street level gritty superhero, but he has superpowers, but it's not something that makes him invulnerable. It just gives him a slight edge. So Daredevil can get messed up too, and that's kind of what's defined his character, that he can get so messed up and so banged up and still come back and do what's right. So you gotta respect that. And probably my favorite episodes of that series, well, first of all, that fight scene in the second episode where it was a continuous shot where they followed Daredevil fighting these different gangsters, these Russian gangsters through the hallway. Amazing sequence. But my favorite episode probably had to be the episode where they introduced the character Stick. For those who don't know, Stick is Daredevil's mentor and the one that kind of taught him how to fight. Stick is also blind. He doesn't have the same powers as Daredevil, but he's been blind all his life, and he's good at fighting, good at killing, but also what I always liked about the Stick character in the comic books and in this show is that he's great at berating Matt Murdock. He's always talking mess, and he's not the kindly sensei that you would see in any other type of genre. He is a jerk. And the second episode that I really, really loved was I didn't think I would like this episode, but I really liked it, was was it Nelson versus Murdoch, where Foggy Nelson finds out Matt Murdock's secret identity as Daredevil, but also finds out, and it kind of goes back and forth. It goes to the flashback of how they first met and their relationship in school. And it was just real great, like just seeing that great relationship. It made me think about a lot of my good friends that I had in college and everywhere else. And just seeing how that relationship was almost torn apart, but still stayed strong because they had that great foundation at first. That was just a great episode. The whole series is very well written. I've seen some people complain about it, and the main complaint I saw was how Vincent D'Onofrio portrayed the Kingpin. But in my opinion, I saw it as this is the Daredevil's origin story, but not just Daredevil's, but it's also the Kingpin's origin story. So he's not the main hardline Kingpin that we know and love. He's just still Wilson Fisk. He's still trying to find his way. He's still very emotional and very erratic at this point. So once he goes to prison, and you can kind of see it at that last part where he's in prison saying, he's going to become that Kingpin that we know and love later on in the series. So, that getting out of the way, that was a great series and a great way for me to start off my summer. And I go right from that gritty, hardcore series going right into something that's a little more fanciful and a little more fun, which was Avengers Age of Ultron. Now, I really like this movie, and I even like it more now that I've watched it over and over again on Blu-ray. And a lot of people were complaining about this movie. They were saying that, Ultron was not the big threat that I guess people wanted him to be. It's funny because they always say about the criticism I see with the Marvel movies is these characters always fighting a character that looks or is just like them. But when they get something different, then they complain about that too. So it's, like I said, it's confusing with the fanboys sometimes. But what I liked about I like Age of Ultron at first just from the visually and just how much fun I had watching it. But later on, I started getting more the symbolism and I'm not I'm not the biggest. Oh my god, I don't know why I'm blanking on his name. The director, Josh Whedon. I'm not the biggest Josh Whedon fan, but he does this very well, and that is the family dynamic and the family atmosphere. So that's why he was perfect for these Avengers movies, these first group of them, because it's all about family. The first movie is about the family getting together, and what I liked about Age of Ultron is you get to see them together, not just in battle, but also just in downtime and how they interact with one another. They're really a close knit unit, and that's what I kind of liked about it. And just the different relationships that each character has. Like I said, the movie's all about family and the legacy of that family and what comes from it. What comes from that love and that respect that the Avengers have, and the birth of that is Ultron, which I guess you could say is the bad seed of the family. But they finally do get it right later on with the Vision. So that is, to me, that's what you have. Like, you have a great family, a great set of parents. They want the best for the world, but they make a child that they want to help the world, but the child winds up destroying it. And that child winds up almost having a child itself, but it gets taken in by the grandparents and winds up becoming what the grandparents want to achieve with that child in the first place. So you got the parents in the Avengers, the child in the Ultron, and the grandchild in the Vision. And it all happens very quickly, I know, but that's the subtext and the symbolism that you're getting there. And I was so glad to see more of Hawkeye, the character, and just seeing that he has a family. That's a total stretch and totally different from the Hawkeye in the comic books. But I like that they added that aspect to him. That's a different dimension that we see in the character, and a different dimension that you get to see within the Avengers. Because you always saw him. He was always kind of going off somewhere and talking on the phone. You're wondering what the hell is he doing. And later on, you find out he's talking to his family, and that he just has a nice, quiet, regular family somewhere. None of the other Avengers have that. So it's great to see that there is someone on the team that kind of grounds it, and he's the heart of the team. And he even says it himself how when he's trying to give Scarlet Witch that pep talk about how this is absolutely ridiculous that we're fighting killer robots on a floating city, and I got a bow and arrow. But when I go out there, I'm an Avenger, and I gotta do the best I can to make things right. And that's the heart of the movie right there. That speech was great. It was very simple. It wasn't like they didn't have like this flowing music playing in the background, but that was the crux of it. If there's anything that I didn't like about the movie was, I guess, just some of the things that they were going to add in there that they didn't. Like there was going to be, I wanted to see more with the Hulk. I wanted to see what he was, because in the original script, what the Scarlet Witch showed the Hulk, which is what made him go crazy and go berserk, was he actually showed the Hulk Banner. And they were going to deal with the whole fact that Banner hates turning into the Hulk because he just feels disgust and hurt that he's created this monster. But the other side of that coin is the Hulk hates Banner for what Banner represents. Banner represents that weakness, and the Hulk was what it was going to be was the Hulk was actually seeing all the people on the street were going to look like Banner, and that's what was making the Hulk freak out and want to just take out everything in sight, and why Iron Man eventually had to stop him. So I'm kind of upset that they kind of took that idea out of there, and they're even going to have a little extra thing where the Hulk turns gray instead of green, which is for the comic book fans. You know that the original Hulk was gray, and later on when he became a little bit more intelligent, that Mr. Fix-It type Hulk, he was gray as well for a while in the late 80s, early 90s. But they said that would have confused the regular fans out there and not the comic book fans. So I can understand why it was taken out, but as a comic book fan, I would have loved to have seen it. I also wanted to see more that scene where Thor goes and goes into the pool and sees the Infinity Stones. That scene was also supposed to be more connected to Asgard and have like some of the fates and whatnot. But they put Skarsgård in there, the guy that's the scientist instead. And I understand why they did that, because that connects this that connects this Avengers movie to the first one more so because Skarsgård is in that one as well. The Avengers movies is almost like you don't have to. They're a separate universe unto themselves almost. Like you can watch the other Marvel movies, they'll give it more weight, but you don't have to see the other Marvel movies. You could just watch the first one and then watch Avengers Age of Ultron and still be with that team because it's all on that team. It's not about all these other characters or anything else that's going on in the Marvel universe. It has effect and it has some weight and it affects the other movies, but it's not. You don't have to go that way. You can just watch the Avengers movies and get that great story out of both of them. And if you watch them back to back, like I have done, you'll see that. And that's why, like I said, I appreciate both of these movies very much so. The next movie on my list that I really enjoyed was this is my favorite movie of the year so far. Is Mad Max Fury Road. And for those who haven't seen it, go get it on Blu-ray. That's one of the few movies I'll recommend you going to buy. I won't say wait, go on Netflix or whatever it is. If you missed it in theaters, you really missed out on a treat. It was a great visual movie, very simple plot. Literally going from one end of the wasteland, stopping, making a realization, and then going back the same way. But just what happens in between there, the action in this movie is, with all these practical effects, is just amazing. And it's a very simple movie. George Miller says specifically he likes to make movies that you can follow if you don't even speak the language. Because there's some parts in this movie where it's kind of hard to understand because of George Miller creates his own language plus some of the accents. It's a little rough to understand what they're saying. Like some of the war boys, kind of hard to understand some of the stuff that they're saying. But he's kind of creating their own lexicon and their own speech patterns for this wasteland future and what they deal with. So it's almost kind of hard to understand, but you don't really need that. You can watch this, you can literally watch this movie with just a music soundtrack, and there's very few movies like that where you can just watch it visually and still get the story. And I love movies like that, like Tron Legacy, another movie that people hate and don't like, but it's a very simple biblical story if you watch it, and like I said, it's very simple, and you can just watch it with the soundtrack and still get what the story is. Another one I love that's like that is the original Conan the Barbarian movie, directed by John Milius with Arnold Schwarzenegger and James Earl Jones as Thulsa Doom. That's another movie which you can just watch it with just the Basil Doris soundtrack. You can just watch it with that and still get the basic plot of what's going on and just enjoy the visual and how beautiful the movie is. So, Mad Max Fury Road is a film for people who love film. And like I said, I would highly recommend it. It's great and very brutal as well. It's brutal but beautiful at the same time. Last movie on my list that I had really enjoyed is the Antman movie. A great movie I was surprised by, but not really. If anyone's seen my other blog, I was much looking forward to seeing this film. I recommend it because it's a comic book film that we've never seen before. It's a legacy character. This is the first time we've ever seen on the big screen a character that was someone else at first, and then they passed the torch on another person to become the Ant-Man. So, just from that, and it had its funny moments. I wasn't so much into the funny parts of it, but it was, like I said, just visually something different. And, spoiler alert if you have not seen the movie. Give you an alert right now. Great fight scene. You get to see a classic Marvel fight between two Marvel characters. So, you get to see Ant-Man fight the Falcon. Something that I was completely taken by surprise of seeing. But, like I said, great movie. Check it out when it comes out on DVD if you have not seen it. I'll be doing more. And the next blog is going to be I'll probably finish talking about Ant-Man a little bit. And then I'll also talk about some of the upcoming things that are coming out soon that I want to see. And some of the movies a movie that was not so good. And I'll be talking about that, the Fantastic Four in a bit. So stay tuned. Chris Crazy House signing out. Stay tuned for part 2 of this summer movie review. Peace.